Today we're starting a new series where we're going to teach you about idioms that we heard in real life this week. I got the idea for this series from our podcast, which we did together, and we actually canceled. Oh, this is my husband, David, by the way, for anyone who doesn't know. This
Hi,
is David.
everybody.
And we were doing a podcast together last year that was pretty popular. People liked it, and they liked hearing David's voice and David's perspective. And since we didn't have time to keep the podcast going, I thought, okay, let's start a video series with David. So this is going to be a little bit more conversational, and I've been wanting to do a series like this for a while where we talk about idioms and phrasal verbs that we're hearing in real life, in conversation. Because throughout the week, there are so many different interesting idioms that come up. And so I wanted to be able to share them with you. So to start, the Super Bowl was just a couple weeks ago. Now, David and I live in Philadelphia, and David grew up not so far from Philly.
Right.
And so David's been an Eagles fan for a long time.
A very long time.
A very long time. And did that include some lean years when there weren't many wins?
Right. There's
Yeah.
been a lot of lean years.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So this was a very big deal, of course. Because
First ever
first-
Super Bowl.
First ever Super Bowl win for Philadelphia. So they beat the Patriots. It's a great story. It was a great game. If you didn't see it, we have a tape of it. So just come on over and we'll all watch it together. But when we were watching the game, one of the commentators, so a commentator is someone who is paid by the TV station to comment on what's happening, analyze it. One of the commentators said this idiom: Nick Foles' confidence is through the roof. So what does that mean to be through the roof? Really high. You could also say sky high. That would be another idiom you could use. So if your confidence is through the roof, you are feeling great about yourself, about your abilities.
Right, and in this instance, it meant that he was playing incredibly well. He was so confident that he was not even thinking about what he was doing. He was just making all the plays that he needed to make, and he was incredible.
He was so accurate. I mean, he just threw the ball and bam, it was there. Now, part of what's crazy about Nick Foles is that he is not the main quarterback for the Eagles. He's the second string. You could call him a backup. He's the backup quarterback. So what does it mean to be a backup? It means you are not what's going to be planned on. So they have a quarterback that's better, Carson Wentz. He got hurt, but he's better. He's their starter is what they call that. But when he gets injured, and you can't go with what you were planning on, you can't go on your best player, then you have to go with your backup. What else could you have a backup for? Maybe if you're having a party and you are not sure if you have enough food, maybe you buy some like frozen pizzas to have as a backup in case you run out.
Yeah, or people would say, when they're applying to college, they would say, this is my first choice, but this is my backup school.
Right, an easier one to get into. You think your chances of getting in are higher. It's your backup. So Nick Foles, the backup, wins the Super Bowl. His confidence is through the roof. It was amazing. We better stop now or this whole video will be about the Super Bowl.
I would be okay with that.
You would be, I know. Actually, one other thing I wanted to say about the idiom through the roof is it means really high level, but it can also mean angry, mad, pissed off would be another way to say it. Like you could say, my boss was through the roof, or went through the roof. I think either one would work.
I think.
My boss went through the roof when I lost a major client. Or my parents went through the roof, or hit the roof, you could say.
Yeah, hit the roof, I think, is interchangeable.
When my grades went down. I was thinking of another way to use this idiom, through the roof, meaning really high. And I was thinking about there's some new construction on our block and how they're pricing those houses so high. They're so expensive. And I was thinking, you know, the housing market in our neighborhood is through the roof.
It is.
And then that's funny because I'm talking about a house and houses have roofs.
Well, it's even better than that. All these new houses have roof decks, so there is something literally
Through the roof. On top of the roof, you get a great view of the city. So that's the idiom through the roof. Okay, another Eagles-related idiom that we heard this week. There was a parade in Philly, like Thursday, right?
Yeah.
4 days after the Super Bowl win, where people like lined the streets and the players came through in these big buses, and it was a big deal. Everyone got to see the players. And we didn't go, but we were watching a little bit of the parade coverage on TV. And one of the commentators made this comment that they were packed to the gills.
Right.
Great idiom.
Yeah, right. And you looked it up then, right? I had no idea what that was referring to. Obviously, I can use it accurately, but that's one of those ones that I did not understand what it meant. I thought it meant that a fish had eaten so much that it was full the whole way up to its gills.
Yeah, well, that's how we can use it now. We can, if you eat a ton, it doesn't just have to mean like an area with lots of people that's very crowded. It could also mean if you eat a lot and you're really full, then you could say, I'm stuffed to the gills.
Yeah.
But an area can be stuffed to the gills or packed to the gills if it's really, really dense with people. And or something else. You could say our neighborhood is packed to the gills with restaurants. It wouldn't have to be people. But I have to show the photo that you sent me that night. So this wasn't the parade, but the night that the Eagles won the Super Bowl, David went out onto the streets. You know, everyone just kind of wanted to be around other fans. And he sent me a photo from an intersection near our house. I couldn't believe how packed to the gills that intersection was. It was like shoulder to shoulder people. So most Americans don't know the origins of all of these various idioms that we use. We didn't know the origins of this idiom. I looked it up, and it refers to how you might prepare a fish. If you were going to bake it, you might stuff other stuff in there in the casserole, onions or tomatoes or whatever. So that's where the phrase stuffed to the gills comes from. It comes from packing different things into the dish when you're preparing fish. So related, speaking of fish, it's such a smooth segue, isn't it? Earlier this week, we were making dinner, and actually we were making fish. And, but that aside, we were going to make a salad. And so we were making it out of kale, and David said, you know, I said, how can I help? And he said, why don't you fish the kale out of the refrigerator?
Right. I knew that there was a bunch of stuff in that drawer where the kale was, and so it was going to take a little bit of effort to reach around the other things and actually get to the kale.
So if you have to fish around for something, or if you have to fish something out, then this means it's not that easy to get to. Like maybe the scissors are at the back of the junk drawer. You have to fish them out. I'm tired of having to fish these out. This drawer is too messy. Or fishing kale out of a very stuffed to the gills fridge.
Yes.
Yes. They're all interrelated.
Another one that came up was if you, like when we ran the wires for our TV behind the wall, we got a TV that hangs on the wall, and we didn't want the wires to be visible coming down the wall to the outlet. So we had our friend come and fish the wires behind the drywall down to the electrical socket. So again, it's hard to see. It's difficult to get at, and there's another use that I thought of.
Fishing. And then, of course, there's actual fishing, where you're catching fish, which we ate for dinner with our kale salad after I fished the kale out of the refrigerator. Okay, David, before we wrap up this video, before we end it, I want to come back to the subject of Nick Foles, the Eagles' backup quarterback. What happens when you're the backup, the second string, and you win a Super Bowl? You know, what happens the next season when the starter, the one who's supposedly better than you, is now healthy? Is this poor guy going to have to just sit on the bench the whole season?
First of all, you use the phrase second string.
Yeah.
Where does that come from?
I do not know the origins of that.
Is that if you break a string on an instrument?
I don't think so.
We'll have to look that one up.
But it might be related to, like, you would have a first violin and a second violin in an orchestra.
Okay.
Maybe it's related to that.
All right, but Nick Foles as second string quarterback. So this has been hotly debated in Philadelphia since the Super Bowl ended.
Hotly debated. That means something that people are really talking about, discussing both sides, both options.
And that people feel passionate about their stance.
Okay.
So he was incredible in the playoffs. He won the Super Bowl, first ever for the city. So his value now in terms of trading him is high. There's a feeling that we could get a good player in return if we traded him. But there's also the other side, which says Carson Wentz, who's the franchise quarterback, the starter, the main one, the one who's better. He's young. He's clearly the future. As soon as he's healthy, the team is his to run. So the other side says, well, but wait a minute. What if he gets hurt again? Then you know that you have a stellar backup in place. The rest of the team is going to be very good next year. So people are saying, no, you need to keep him as an insurance policy in case Wentz gets hurt again. Well, let me ask about that. Is he that good, or was this sort of a fluke? A fluke is something that's out of the norm. It can be more positive than the norm, or it can be less positive than the norm. But I mean, the reason why he was second string is because he wasn't that great, right? So was it a fluke that he did so well during the playoffs? It's hard to tell, and again, that's hotly debated because his first year with the Eagles, in his last stint here. Oh, you mean he played here, then he played somewhere else, and then he came back? Yeah. Okay. In his first stint here, he had an incredible season. Okay. So why did he get traded then? There was a coaching change, and he was not nearly as good the following year. Okay. Wait, was there a coaching change before he left? I'm not sure. But people said, oh, that one season that he had was a fluke. Okay. The good season was a fluke. They're saying he's not actually a great player. But then he played a couple of the greatest playoff games ever in the history of the game. So maybe he's not fluke as much as what I would say is that he's someone who can get hot. Okay, so would you say he's inconsistent? Unreliable. That is a difficult phrase to use for him. But people would say he's hot or cold. And when he's hot, he's incredible. And when he's cold, he looks pedestrian. This is how you feel about J.J. Redick of the 76ers. That's true. But that's a whole different story. That's another episode. Okay, anyway, we may be getting too deep into sports talk here, though. I will say I got an email from a guy named Mustaqim, who we met at the 1 million subscriber party. He lives outside of Philly. And he said, you know, I'm watching the Super Bowl and I don't really get American football. Will you make a video about it? So next fall, during, you know, the relaunch of the football season, it's over now. But I think next fall, maybe we should do a video series on football vocabulary, idioms, and then some of the rules. So if people ever want to watch, they feel like they get it a little more. What do you think of that idea? If you like it, let me know in the comments below. I also think it's just a reality that there are a lot of metaphors and idioms that have crept into everyday talk that are sports related. Oh, so many. I think it's hard for a non-native speaker to understand where those are coming from. Yeah. So, I actually have a video on golf idioms relating to par. I made a video once on baseball idioms. There are so many, but I never published it because the audio got messed up. But there are a lot of videos to be made about sports idioms, including football. So hopefully we'll get to that. Okay, guys, thanks for joining us here. If you liked this kind of video, please let us know in the comments below. It's the goal that we'll be teaching you idioms that we're hearing that are in use, that will hopefully have an impact for you in understanding what Americans mean when they use these idioms. So David, thanks for joining me here. Thanks for having me. For helping me make this video. And I think that's pretty much it. Hopefully you'll see more videos like this in the future. That's it, guys, and thanks so much for using Rachel's English. If you want to see my absolute latest video, click here. If you're new to the channel, check out this Where to Start playlist. Click here to subscribe. I make new videos on American English every Tuesday. To be sure we can keep in touch, click here to sign up for my newsletter. You'll get free lessons in your inbox every week.